time together by telling you 5 things about myself. One fact is not true. 1, I grew up with less than 50 books in my home. 2, I spent an entire year trying to convince a warden of a maximum security prison to meet with me until he would. 3, both my parents, mom and dad, struggle with the disease of addiction, and I have never put a cigarette in my mouth in my life. 4, I have done plenty of criminal things for which I could have been arrested, but I wasn't. 5, I've spent quite a bit of time in prison. Which fact is not true? You see, they're actually all true. I know at this point, most of you in the room here are wondering about my time in prison, and you wouldn't be the first. Erica, why are you leaving your comfortable and cozy life in Northwest Florida to travel 20 hours one way, 3 stops on a plane, and 2 hours with entirely no cell phone reception, to a sleepy, coastal, tucked away town that is home to the world's infamous Supermax prison and penitentiary in the world, Pelican Bay State Prison? Here's a photo of just how comfortable and cozy I really was. As a younger generation might say, quite basic, with coffee in hand. No, Erica, really, why? All by yourself? You're a girl from the South, and you've never been to a place like this before. Are you sure you know what you're doing? Some iteration of this was said to me by my family, my friends, my colleagues, and even complete strangers on the plane on the way there. Here's why. I'm going to tell you a story about a time in my life, a tough time, a real trajectory point of sorts, where I found myself not just living my life, but listening to it too. We're all friends here, and I'm sure most of you would agree that nobody finds themselves headed to a Supermax prison unless something bad has terribly gone wrong in their life, and which in my case, it had. The issue at hand? The nagging and gnawing feeling that I wasn't doing my life's work. How did I know that this issue was a problem? Because I stand here today as an adult of adversity, I was a student of adversity, and I was a child of one. I've been adulting since around the age of 10 because I had to. Striving and thriving, improving, and all that comes with that often leads to an ambitious person, which in my case it had. I was ambitious and I was driven, and there came a point in my life where everything attached to ambition, all of the external things, the raise, the promotion, the title, the gig, the accolade, and the award, they no longer had meaning. So I found myself perplexed. This issue had really inconvenient timing in my life. For a type A personality and planner like me, this was a problem. And so I stopped asking myself, once I do this, then I'll be able to do this. And in the quiet chambers of my heart, I said, Erica, what does your life's work look like? And the answer was this. Work alongside, work with people, groups, and organizations where social impact and social responsibility is at their core. You see, we have a lot of social challenges in this country. We're all shaped by our own personal experiences. And, oftentimes we don't know what we don't know. For me and my own personal path, the social impact and social responsibility and social challenge that resonated with me the most was mass incarceration. You see, mass incarceration is tied to our jails and prisons. And our jails and prisons and the sprawling cost affect us socially, politically, economically, and monetarily at the cost of $182 billion a year annually. So this problem of mass incarceration and my journey to Pelican Bay State Prison and this stirring inside of me and this nagging and gnawing an issue in my life, you see, heading to Pelican Bay was not the first time that I had headed to a prison. I've spent the past decade visiting both my mom and dad inside of jails and prisons. I've become very familiar with prison programming. Everything from my dad taking fatherhood to my mom taking anger management to personal responsibility to parenting. The thing that gravitated me there, the reason I got on an airplane all by myself, was a program called the CEO of Your New Life, where the men at Pelican Bay State Prison, deemed the worst of the worst in the world, who had been forgotten, where the numbers of solitary confinement are at an all-time high in this country at that facility, were participating in this program that I would be helping facilitate, alongside other mentors, entrepreneurs, investors, and coaches, where we would spend time with these men working on their personal statements, showing up exactly where they were to tell exactly who they were. Their resumes, their business ideation, the best part, where we would stand on the other side of the stage with them and we would Shark Tank style incubator, invest in their ideas, and have a competition in graduation at the very end, so they transition from being inmates to entrepreneurs in training. And during this time working there at Pelican Bay State Prison, here I was thinking mass incarceration was the social impact and social responsibility thing I had resonated to most. But in fact, it wasn't. It was those people who were being incarcerated by the masses that once they got out of jails and prisons and spent time on the outside, ended up back there. And I can't help but wonder and believe that the numbers on this screen are so staggering and the recidivism rates are so high because of this. Sir, I'm really sorry. Your resume looks great, but here's the thing. Our policies and procedures still say that we're unable to hire people with a felony. Ma'am, I see that you have a lot of experience in this field, but I apologize, we're unable to accept you. Sir, here at this property, it takes 10 years until the felony's off your record for you to be able to live at this apartment complex. You see this workforce center here, we really strive for excellence, and we saw on your profile that you have a criminal background, and I apologize, but we won't be able to accept you here. This is what most people who leave our criminal justice system and our facilities, who are locking people away in this country, hear when they're trying to navigate the world of housing and employment. You see, as I dove into this path in my life's work and unraveling this issue, this nagging and gnawing feeling, and really, really unpeeling people who have criminal backgrounds and records, here's what I learned. 90% of the people who are in our jails and prisons today, right now, in the United States, are going to end up back out in our communities. This is how many people are going to get out this year. Every single one of us have a choice in this room to decide what kind of men and women that we want living in our communities. Because I'm here to tell you that these people are your neighbors. They shop at the same grocery stores that you do. They pump gas next to you. Their children go to school with your children. And you're doing life with these people whether you realize it or not. You see, This isn't just a belief of mine. This is a belief of all types of employers in this country who don't just believe, but they behave in a way that has the kind of mindset and mentality and perception that supports those who have made weighty and grave mistakes and have served their time and are trying to rehabilitate themselves. From the brownie I ate on my tray the last time I flew with Delta, to the popular bread brand I buy at the supermarket, to the car rental I use, to the credit card I swipe, to the company that I order from online almost every day, to the business who delivers it. These companies, here's what they believe. They believe that people with criminal backgrounds who are getting out of our jails and prisons and don't ever want to go back, they believe those people are America's biggest underdogs, and even more, the biggest untapped workforce in America. These are people who are deflated, and they're defeated, and they're discouraged. They have made horrible mistakes, and they have records to prove it. But these companies and so many more are completely transforming our workforce. And they're doing it because they believe that even the people they hire should not be known for their worst mistake and that they have a right to a fair and equal future. That's also what I believe. And I'm here sharing that idea, so hopefully I can nudge you to believe the same. You see, when we believe like this, when we change our mentalities and our mindsets and our perceptions around those with criminal backgrounds, this is what we do. We turn dope dealers into hope dealers, like my friend Kaz. Here's a picture of him on the top left. I met Kaz during a season of my life where I was in the gym a lot. I traveled to New York for business, and I was looking for the hottest, fattest, hippest new workout on the market. And that led me to Con Body. Get it? Convict? Con Body. I met Kaz. Kaz was my instructor. You see, Kaz at 19 years old was running one of the largest drug rings on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. He had 20 people working for him, and he was making $2 million a year. He had everything that came with making $2 million a year. Lavish cars, jewelry, real estate, you name it. When Kaz was busted for being the kingpin, he was sentenced to 7 years in prison. They told him, if you don't lose weight here, you will die. Kaz took that seriously. He took being in a correctional institution as a time to correct his life. He started doing dips on the side of his bed inside of a 9x6 cell, push-ups and pull-ups, and within 6 months had lost 70 pounds. During a stint in solitary confinement, Kaz came up with the idea of Con Body. And when he got out 7 years later, he connected with a program called the CEO of Your New Life, where incubators and entrepreneurs and investors invested in his idea. And his gym sits on the same corner that he was dealing dope, but now he's dealing hope. With two missions. One, to transform the way that people view with criminal records, and two, to employ those who have a past like his. You see, you may be wondering what you and your chair here can do about this issue and this idea. Perhaps you're not one of these major employers, or you don't have a story like mine. But maybe you're like my friend Lindsay, who's willing to drive an hour one way to help organize petitions and get them signed for amendments who will literally change laws to help rehabilitate those who have paid their time. Or maybe my friend Michelle, who has a coworker who has made weighty mistakes, but decides to open up to her and tell her his story, and she helps continue to tell his story that might otherwise go untold. In fact, she copies and pastes all types of links and news about people who are doing the same thing and sends them to all of her friends. Or maybe you're like my friend Karen, whose entire life has been overcome with the disease of addiction that has overtaken her family since she was a small child. She spends the first Monday of every month in a prison about an hour north of where she lives, talking to the young men who are like her son, who have been behind bars over and over and over again. You see, every single one of us, at some point in our life, will come in contact with the type of people I'm talking about. And you'll have an opportunity. It may be in your workplace. It may be at your church. It may be in your classroom, like the students at US Berkeley, who are creating an underground scholar program right now that's facilitating a prison to education pipeline, not the other way around. You see, every single one of us has an opportunity to help shift the mindset and the mentality around this. I ask a question to myself when starting this talk. You know, Erica, do you share that you've done criminal things for which you've been arrested but you weren't? I'm going to ask you that same question. I told you the truth. How many of you here have done criminal things for which you could have been arrested but you weren't? All right, I should see a few more hands. Wi-Fi squatting is technically considered a felony in some instances. How about this? How many of you want to be known for the worst thing you've ever done? I don't see any hands. I don't want to be either. And most people behind bars, they certainly don't. So when we challenge ourselves, like TEDxFSU is doing here today, to question, defy the odds, of course, and to redefine the way that we look at those who have made mistakes, have records to prove it, and have a criminal background, what we do is we infiltrate our communities, our neighborhoods, our world, and we change it. You see, if the girl standing on the stage today and the woman in these pictures, who was born to a natural-born hustler, can do it, so can each one of you. I believe that second chances are all of ours to have. Thank you.